In our last story, we saw how the U.S. is working with foreign countries to develop a kind of international security blanket to protect against terrorist threats and drug and personnel trafficking. This story is focused more on how the U.S. Navy is conducting global operations in a more traditional way.
In the Navy, ballistic missile submarines are called boomers. Their mission, to provide the United States with its most survivable nuclear strike capability. That mission began a long time ago. The 1950s, a decade of innocence and simpler times.
Disneyland is dedicated to the ideals, the dreams, and the hard facts that have created America. Disneyland is your land.
It was the era of Disneyland, Davy Crockett hats, and Bill Haley and the Comets. And although the world seemed like a less complicated and safer place to live, it was also a time when the Cold War ran hot.
Freedom's torch, lighting our continent, is the target of those who do not believe in freedom.
The air behind the scenes in military circles was filled with the tension few Americans knew. It was a time when men and women with vision looked for strategic ways to protect our country and the world from nuclear war. It was from this atmosphere of anxiety and tension that the concept of a submarine-based ballistic missile program was born. In 1955, the Navy assigned a team of active duty and civilian specialists the seemingly impossible task of developing a sea-based strategic weapon system capable of reaching targets 1,500 miles away. Of course, achieving the impossible is never easy. The team had their share of successes and misfires. But they knew the clock was ticking. As the Cold War escalated with the downing of a U-2 spy plane over Russia, the need for a nuclear deterrent was growing day by day.
2, 1, 0, fire.
The call was answered on July 20th, 1960, when an A-1 missile was successfully fired from the first Polaris submarine, the USS George Washington, off the coast of Cape Canaveral, Florida. The two-stage missile could carry a nuclear warhead 1,200 nautical miles. Amazingly, the program was brought from blackboard to launch in only 4 short years. Competition with the Soviets continued to grow, and not only in the area of ballistic missiles. By 1961, the space race was on. Shortly after Alan Shepard inaugurated the Mercury space program at Cape Canaveral, just off that same Florida coast, the crew of the USS Ethan Allen launched the second generation of Polaris missile, the Polaris A-2. The A-2 achieved the increased range of 1,500 nautical miles. But even as the new missile was being test-fired, plans were well underway for the A-3, a significant milestone which would leave no land target out of the reach of the U.S. submarine fleet. For the first time, a range of 2,500 nautical miles was reached. The A-3 also established the concept of multiple warheads on a single missile. With the turmoil and social change of the 1960s came an entirely new direction in the ballistic missile weapon system, the Poseidon C-3. The C-3 was first launched from the USS James Madison on August 3, 1970. Like the Polaris A-3, it had a 2,500 nautical mile range. But the Poseidon can be outfitted with multiple warheads, each of which could strike a separate target. This feature, known as Multiple Independently Targeted Re-Entry Vehicles, or MIRV, made it a far more efficient and effective deterrent. As we moved through the 70s, the Cold War started to thaw and U.S.-Soviet relations grew warmer, at least in the icy vacuum of space. But tensions remained, leading to the development of a more advanced deterrent system, the Trident I C-4 missile. The development of the Trident missile also led to the development of the new Trident SSBN force. The first, the USS Ohio, was launched on September 6, 1982. The new subs were quieter, more capable, and harder to detect than their predecessors. Seeking the ability to carry a larger payload with hard target accuracy on board the Ohio-class subs, the Trident II D5 missile was born in 1989. Then, the 1994 Nuclear Posture Review determined only 14 of the Navy's 18 SSBNs were needed. The remaining 4 SSBNs would be converted to guided missile submarines. These SSGNs would carry up to 154 Tomahawk missiles. This new configuration will allow for more versatile payloads in the future. The missile tubes may be used to launch unmanned aerial and undersea vehicles, as well as newer types of missiles. Today, our fleet ballistic missile submarines continue to patrol the world's oceans, with well-trained crews and weapons that can reach just about any target on Earth. They are America's undersea deterrent force.